In 1879, the Bloch brothers founded their tobacco company at a time when Wheeling enjoyed a national reputation as a center for stogie manufacturing, boasting over 100 stogie makers in the city. To compete against the more well-established companies, the Bloch brothers developed a new product, chewing tobacco, and called it mail pouch, after the way steamboats delivered the city's mail by throwing large pouches of letters from the boat deck to the wharf. Mail pouch continues today, over 100 years later, in part because of the success of an innovative marketing campaign. The classic mail pouch tobacco signs adorning the barns across America's heartland have become more than creative advertising. They are now part of America's folklore, an evocative symbol of America's nostalgic past. This is the story of the craftsman who etched the mail pouch symbol into America's consciousness. Sign painter Harley Warrick. Retiring after almost 50 years of sign painting, Harley Warrick painted a special mail pouch sign for the Wheeling Artisan Center in October of 1996.
One line at a time. I consider it a craft. It's more like a carpenter or a plumber or a pipe fitter or whatever. You do the same thing over and over. When I first started, we had 4 crews. There was 8 guys altogether. And then as the years went by, they kept dropping off. And then when I got down, I was the only guy left, and I did it myself for the last 20 years. Better than 20,000, counting new ones and repaints. I didn't even know how many I did, and then I did a film for Charles Gerault. He come down, they counted them up down at the company. Hell, I didn't know I'd done that many. We had a dairy farm, and we had a mail pouch sign on our barn. And then I went through high school and then went to service and over in Germany during the war. And I'd only been home a couple of days, and just so happened the crew come through to repaint the barn, and I was over talking to them, and that's where I got started. That was better than milking 27 head of jerseys every night and morning. I didn't mind the farm, but I just thought this would be better. So I leased the end of the barn off the farmer and paid him, right there before he even painted it. Most of them didn't want anything, but the main thing was they couldn't care less about the tobacco. It was a landmark. It was, if you had somebody who was coming out of state to visit you, you said, well, you get down there to that mail pouch, and that's where we live. That's what most of them were. Of course, for the company, it was advertising. We had 20 states that we kept covered, we covered every 3 or 4 years we'd go back and repaint them, mostly in the Midwest. Our biggest customers were steel workers or coal miners, so that's where you'll find most of the signs. Every day was an adventure. So whatever you thought couldn't happen would. I'll never forget that first contractor I went to work for, and had a helper come out, and he was always worried about details, and he says, we're up there on the side of the barn. He was talking about insurance, He says, now in case we fall off of that barn, what do we do, insurance-wise? The old contractor said, just paint like hell all the way down. Don't stop. I remember one time I was working in some little town up here towards Toronto or someplace. That wall was probably 70 feet high. And no place to fasten the ropes on. So here's this guy coming down the street, and I said, would you mind holding these ropes while I go up and tie it off? No, I'll hold them. I said, be sure you stand on them now, don't let loose of them. I went up there and tied it off, and then some guy was standing down there just on the edge, you know. He said, you picked the biggest drunk in town. He says, that guy salute, he don't know where he's at. Here I had him holding them ropes. Oh, yeah. Didn't matter if the painter got wet, as long as the sign didn't get wet. Yeah, I had a Greek kid work with me. He was from up here at Warwood. He wouldn't say 3 words all day. We're working away there, and all at once this roof comes off the barn, comes right up over the top of our head and out in the field, you know. He said, well, I believe it's about time to quit. That's like my first wife. She told me, you know, either change jobs or change wives. And I said, I'm glad you brought that up, because wives are easier to find than jobs. What do you know? It fits in there. You're surprised how many times I've run out of space, too. Once in a while, you do it intentionally. You had a barn that set on a kind of an angle of the road, you know. You run it right around the corner. Then put an oops back of it. We had one guy, though, he was there for years, and he would reverse the letters and treat yourself to the best. He'd have an S-L-E-F. He'd do that every once in a while. When we had crews working out there, though, if we'd screw one up, we'd put the other guy's name on it. But just for the heck of it, every once in a while, I'll put 3 C's in tobacco, just to get somebody to pay attention to it. And sure enough, they'll write into the company and say that sign painter must have been drunk or something. He's got 3 C's in there. So they send them a letter, you know, thanking them for paying attention to the sign. Well, at Good Morning America, they bugged me for about 2 years. They wanted me to come up to New York and do the program, you know. And I said, hell, there's no barns in New York City. And they said, well, we'll fake it. And I said, nope, we won't fake it. I said, we got plenty of barns out here. So it went on for about 2 years, and finally they decided to come down to the little town of Barnesville and do it. So. Yeah, you got to know some pretty good people out there. That's the only part of the job I actually miss anymore is visiting with the farmers. Or the owners. Yeah. They weren't all farmers. You got to know the whole family, you know. Well, then you'd come back again in about 2 or 3 years and revisit. It's just like going home, you know. I remember I did a television thing one night, and they was asking me a question there about what young people ought to do for a job, you know, and I said, well, do what you would do for as a hobby, you know, and get some darn fool to pay you for doing it. Well, Stuart, he happened to be listening to it, you know, and he called me. He says, yeah, he says, this is that darn fool that's paying you. Mail Pouch was a good outfit to work for.